Guys, today I'm going to do another solo video where I am going to talk about another specific topic for you all that I hope you find interesting and useful. The topic for today is 5 common mistakes in Pokemon investing and how to avoid those mistakes. And so I want to preface this by saying that these are mistakes that I continue to make, that all investors continue to make, from beginners to experts. And so don't feel bad if you're making some of these mistakes. It's normal to make some of these mistakes. But we're going to talk about ways of trying to reduce some of these mistakes and ultimately make you a better investor. So the first mistake is confirmation bias. This is the first mistake we're going to talk about today. So what confirmation bias means is that when you have something that you believe in, let's say that I think this specific set or this specific card is way undervalued, for example. If I believe that very strongly, I might look for other people and surround myself with other people within the hobby who believe the same thing as me, also believe that that card is very valuable. And you do that because it feels good for someone to say, you're right, for someone to say that was a good investment, that was a good buy. And it tends to feel bad when someone says, that wasn't a good buy, and here are the reasons why. So you really have to be a good investor, you really have to do your best to work sort of against that instinct to surround yourself with people who agree with you and actually really look for the opposite. And so when we talk about the solution here to this problem, the solution is, for example, if you think if you're a very bearish investor right now and you think the market is going to continue to go up, you should be looking for bullish people in our community to talk to argue with. You should be looking at their content and listening to their content, because they're going to be giving you arguments that are actually going to be useful and helpful to you and challenge what you're thinking. Now, ideally, of course, when you listen to this content with an open mind, you're going to say, I understand their argument, maybe, or maybe I don't, and maybe it doesn't make much sense, but more often than not, probably that there are some good points they're making, but I think they're overlooking these other things. And these other things are the reason why I'm investing in this card. So by doing that, by seeking, or the opposite, right? Bullish people or bearish people in the market should be seeking those bullish people and trying to understand why are they buying in this current Pokemon economy? Why are they excited about these cards? And why do they think they're going to continue to go up? By doing this, by looking for people outside of your sort of bubble within the community, one, you're going to get a better sense of the market, of that there are a lot of different people who have different ideas and different opinions, and they're all sort of buyers and sellers. And that's important to understand the psychology of the market that you're in, and the different parts of the market, and the psychology in the different parts of the market. But second, you're also going to get your own opinions challenged, and hopefully you're going to grow from that. You're going to learn from that, or you're going to feel more confident in what you're doing, but for good reasons, not those emotional reasons, but for good, rational, logical reasons. So that's the first one, confirmation bias. The second mistake I see people making is that they don't know what they're buying, or they don't know enough about what they're buying or selling. So I see people and talk to people who don't know the population of the card they're buying. They don't know how the card was released. They don't know the rarity and the scarcity. They don't have a sense of how that card stacks up against other cards of a similar value, of a similar type. And when you do that, you put yourself at risk of making poor purchases. You can get lucky by doing that. And, the Pokemon market has moved has moved up so much, and might continue moving up, a lot more at some point in the future. These things are very subjective and opinion based right now, and different people have different opinions. But, so if you had been in the beginning of the hobby and dropped your money in anything, you probably would have made money. So there is a chance that if you just kind of buy at random or you buy what other people are buying, you will make money. But you're guaranteed, I would say, not guaranteed, but you're a lot more likely to make money if you're doing that research, you're understanding what you buy, you understanding why what you're buying makes sense to buy and what makes it collectible. Okay. And so the solution to that is doing that research. You have to do the work. You have to be engaged. You can't just listen to other people. And so, yes, there are some like really good YouTube channels, and there are some people who are giving great information, and very specific information on cards that can be very useful. But I suggest that you don't just listen to any person online. You go to places like PokemonPrice.com. You go to places like Bulbapedia. You read about the releases of these cards. You look at the price history of these cards. You look at the population reports of these cards, and you make those decisions for yourself based on that raw data. Okay. The third thing I want to talk about, mentioned part of it in that last one, is just sort of following the crowd, and following the crowd without sort of making your own decisions. And how that's different from the last one and the specifics I'm going to talk about in this one is when you follow a crowd, particularly if the vast majority of that crowd or almost all of that crowd has already bought an item, right? So everyone rushes into buying a specific item in Pokemon because it's the hyped item right now. It's the new hit item. If you are one of the last people to buy or the last person to buy, you are buying at that highest price because the price has been driven up. There's been an increase in the market. Lots of people are now flooding into the market and buying that card. And because of that, the prices has gone up. And if you wait till the end, when you're one of the last people to kind of jump on that train, the price will likely be at its highest. And, before it's going to probably either plateau because there are no new buyers, or it's going to come down because there are no new buyers, but there are still people wanting to sell their cards. So that's generally good investment advice. No matter what you're collecting or doing. The solution to that really is to make your own decisions, to do that research that we talked about in the last one, and to really at times honestly take advantage of when there's a lot of hype over certain things. Sometimes that means there's less hype on other things, and other things kind of go out of fashion, even though that other thing has very similar value, or even a better value in some cases, and a better sort of collectible, we could say, facts, to the item. Item A is going for this amount of money. Item B is going for much less money, but they have very similar rarity, scarcity, popularity of Pokemon, these sorts of things. So you can kind of take advantage of, or if you don't join that crowd and you do your own research, you will find where there's more value, where there are cards that are more value. Okay. Sometimes the crowd does have it right. And there are times when I certainly am somewhat late to something and will buy with the crowd because I think, I really underestimated that. I see now how popular that is. I understand why the crowd is going to it. I think the crowd is going to it for a good reason. And I'm going to buy into that as well. So it's all about thinking through that. Is the crowd making a smart decision here? Does it make sense? Why is the crowd moving now? Why didn't they move before? These sorts of things. What has changed? Has something changed? All good things to think about there. The next mistake that I see people make is people let their own egos get the best of them. They let their competitive natures get the best of them. And this kind of can be reflected in two main areas I see for people. One, they stop listening to other people. They stop listening to better arguments than their own. They stop wanting to grow. They stop challenging themselves. They believe they know what to buy. They believe they know what is the best thing to buy, or they have a system that works for them or has worked for them, and they're unwilling to grow and adapt to become a better investor and to make better decisions. And that can happen for people who are new, but also experts, because experts can have very big egos, and they could have made a lot of money in the past, and their strategies worked in the past, but won't in the future. So these are constantly things. So not having that ego, constantly looking to learn, looking to grow. So that's that first area of issue that the ego has. The second big area that ego can have is not willing to acknowledge or admit that you were wrong. And this has two issues with it. The first issue of not admitting that you're wrong. So let's say that I bought a card, okay? And now that card starts going down in value. I bought it at this higher price, and this card has now gone to half, okay? So I could, when that happens, what you should do is you should do some research. You should try to understand what is happening here. Why has this card gone down? And do I think the card will go back up? Does this not seem right to me? Are lots of cards going down? And I, believe that the market is doing a correction here, but I think the long-term value of this card is still going to go up, so I'm not going to sell it, right? That wouldn't be ego. That would be making a smart decision and being calm. That's actually being very patient and being willing to hold on to something and not selling it for that low price out of fear, out of irrational fear. But what happens a lot of the times is people may realize, oh, I did make a mistake buying that, or they may push that aside. They may push that realization aside, and then throw like the saying, throw good money after bad. So I buy this card at a lower price and I say, no, that was a good buy and people don't know what they're talking about. And this does have more value than this. So I'm going to buy a lot more of those at that lower price, even though logically, I did overpay for these 5 reasons, and, we're not talking about specific cards here. These are very general things to think about. Right. And so that's very dangerous, because if you just say, okay, made a mistake, let me sell that card because I don't think that card has a good future. I don't think that card's going to grow up because there are too many of them. It's not rare. It's not that scarce because people are leaving this hobby or going into other areas of the hobby, or this was more niche, this thing that I bought than I thought, whatever the reason is. If you don't have the humility to acknowledge that mistake, sell the card, and then put that money in a better card, in a better investment vehicle within the hobby or in another hobby, you're going to lose more money. One, you won't sell the card, so the card might continue to go down if you think it's a bad investment. And 2, you might actually throw more money at it because I'm going to buy all of them then. I'm going to buy everything within that. And I see people do that too and have done that in the past over various things and lost money, at least in the short term, and more money than they could have. So even if those cards have recovered now because everything has gone up, they still could have made a lot more money if they hadn't thrown that money at it then. If they had saved that money or put it in other cards that have grown a lot more or have been a better value. So the last one I want to talk about is spending money that you can't afford to spend. This is another thing I see, a lot of, or I worry that a lot of people are doing this, particularly because we have a lot of young people in the hobby. And young people in the hobby often don't have as much money. They're starting their careers. They might even have a lot of student debt and other sorts of things. And they see the prices of these markets, they see how much money people are making, and it's a lot more, and it's very fun. Let's be honest, like Pokemon cards I love Pokemon cards. I love to collect them. It's an extremely fun hobby. And all of those factors lead to people getting addicted to buying or buying too much or buying outside their means. And then, rationalizing it, by saying these cards are going to go forever or these will be good investments one day and better than, and I'll be able to pay back, I'll be able to sell them soon and then pay off my credit card debt or these other sorts of things. Now, what they're not realizing is, their credit card debt and all these sorts of things, or maybe they do realize, but they're trying to push that anxiety aside, that credit card debt, that debt is building. And that if they were to focus on paying off that debt first, or if they were to do sum of both at the same time in a smart way, that would be much better. And so I think that the solution to this, if you have debt, if you have some of these issues, I'm not going to sit here and say, there are people who will suggest like, don't invest at all, zero investing at all if you have debt. these are just my opinions. I just want to state that there, and people should be looking up lots of different opinions and also consulting financial advisors and things for this, things like this. But to share sort of my opinions on these subjects, I think that it can be okay to do some of both, particularly if you're doing it in a smart way and you're buying very slowly in slow risk cards that are fairly liquid. And that also, as a way to sort of build your knowledge and work on sort of building some capital in the hobby that then you can use to buy more. So for example, rather than jumping right into the hobby and leveraging all your credit cards and spending huge amounts of money right away, right? You can spend little bits on certain things, then sell those cards, practice buying and selling, sell those cards, take that profit, reinvest that profit into something a little bigger. And you can sort of work your way up and build kind of a bigger collection by doing that. That's for people who don't have the money to just jump in. If you have the money to jump in, then you can jump in. I mean, as long as you're following what I would say, you're not making any of those other mistakes, Finally, the last thing I'll talk about here, the last mistake that people can make. So once and to give kind of an overview, once you have made sure, I guess, that you're not making any of the previous mistakes we talked about. Okay, so this is after you've made sure you're not making any of those previous mistakes. Another mistake people can make is that they don't buy it all. All right. And they don't buy it all due to the fear of investing. People have a fear of investing. People have a fear of taking risk. And this is very understandable. This is human nature. It feels worse. It can feel much worse to lose money and lose hard-earned money than it can feel to make money. So developing that appetite for risk and that ability to and that understanding that all investment is risk. Collecting too, there's risk, in terms of you are collecting it ultimately for fun and these sorts of things, but there's a risk that your collection will go down in value, or you will lose your job and then you needed to sell these and pay for something else in your life, right? There's risk in all of these sorts of things. So it's very important to, once you have not made all those other mistakes, you do have to buy. You have to invest your money. You have to buy some of these cards at the end of the day to make money, in this hobby. And, without risk, if you don't take those risks, those calculated, educated risks, you will miss out on potential big profit. And, I'm a big believer in investing your money, whether it be in this hobby or other sorts of things. And there's lots of ways to turn what you make into a lot more. And don't let sort of that fear and anxiety shut you down, either from learning, or growing in the hobby. And what I suggest is, if you have a lot of anxiety or fear about spending, start really, really small. They're very affordable, collectible things in this hobby. And spend $10 on certain cards and then flip those cards for you can flip them or you can hold them and wait till they go up to $20, sell them a year, 2 years later. You can start building a collection because you love them, and then see and watch their prices go over time. And then you realize, okay, maybe I can start to sell some of these at this gain and put them into other sorts of things. So there are ways to do these things slowly, and ways that they won't cause you anxiety, and the ways that they will be fun. Okay. So I hope this video has been useful and enjoyable, and that I touched on a number of important points. I hope you all have had a great week. I guess it's Sunday today. I hope everyone had a good week this week, and I will talk to you all next week. I think Rafi and I will get back together and make a video. Pretty soon we're going to try and come up with a set schedule so people can predict when our videos are going to come out and sort of be waiting for them. But right now we're doing it a little bit haphazardly due to our schedules. But we will be doing another video sometime probably in the middle of the week, towards the end of the work week. Okay, so I'll see you guys then. Take care.